some years ago myself, and I didn't believe it, but I did find out we had to warn prospective workers that it's illegal to buy votes. Actually, it's probably the most illegal thing these days, and among other things, is to buy votes. But in fact, that was done, and was done with not infrequently in Kentucky many years ago. As I said, our assistant county attorneys provide advice to the Board of Elections all year while they are in session, and then from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Election Day. The public should also know that there are local judges, circuit judges on site of all Election Day. I think they take 2 or 3 hour shifts, and they're there to hear appeals from individuals who have been told that they would not be able to vote that day. And just out of a pitch from my daughter, Annie, she's a circuit judge, and she will be on call there as well on Election Day. In addition to our work representing the Board of Elections, my office may be involved in prosecuting rare instances of violation of election law. And make no mistake about that. Fortunately, since I've been county attorney, I don't recall that we've actually had to prosecute anybody in Jefferson County for violation of election law. And God help us that this year that will not be the case as well. So you see here today conscientious and committed public servants from 2 different political parties. None of the elected officials here, myself included, are on the ballot this year. I am firm, though, in my belief that this is the most consequential election in my lifetime. In my lifetime. Now, many of you all have heard that on news or read it, et cetera, at least from my vantage point and what I believe in, and I voted a long time and I've been involved in public service. This is the most important election I have ever seen in this state or in this nation since I've been alive and walking around. There also are important, in addition to the races on the ballot, there are also questions regarding constitutional amendments, as Secretary Adams and others have talked to you. The elections in our community are secure and conducted with integrity. I urge everyone to make their choices carefully. Make your plan, as everyone has said. Will you vote during the 3 available days of no excuse early voting or on Election Day? Make that decision and then be about doing it and preparing for it. Which of the many polling locations will you attend or look at? They're listed in all kinds of places. Please check that and make plans for what you're going to do on that day as well. Make your plan and then vote. This is your chance to directly participate in our democracy, and I thank everyone that's here today talking about this and working hard to do it, and I thank the public for being interested enough to be here as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate that. Before we move on to our next question, we're going to actually break this up today, just given the importance of this initial topic with an election coming up and the importance of fair and free and elections. We thought we'd pause right now, and if the media has any questions they would like to ask any of us who just spoke about the topic of elections, we are happy to take those questions at this time.
There have been national reports about the FBI's concerns about election interference, even election violence at the polls. I'd like to know what is being done different, what are you watching for in this regard on Election Day?
Yeah. You, please, Secretary Adams. I'll just say while you're coming up, that one thing I didn't, please come up and answer that as well. But we are preparing locally. We have been working very closely with LMPD and all of our emergency services. We have no information that there will be any incidents of violence or otherwise. We certainly hope that will not be the case on Election Day or after Election Day in this community. But we are prepared. If there is violence on Election Day or otherwise, we are prepared. We will be prepared. That is simply not acceptable in this community. Secretary Adams.
I would just add to that, it's not so much what we're doing different, it's what we've done actually for a long time, which is extensive, meticulous planning around every aspect of the election. I took office in January of 2020. This is not my first controversial election. If anything, tempers have simmered since 2020. But we spend months and months preparing for these things, including a lot of conversations with law enforcement. I think it's fortunate that in Kentucky, the sheriff of every county is on the county board of elections. That's helpful, having a law enforcement voice there, a representative there as part of the planning process for where voting occurs. I will add also that something that we've worked on really hard the last several years is getting better voting locations that are more physically secure than what Kentucky has used in the past. But we prepare extensively for every election in terms of access, in terms of integrity, in terms of security, personal security for our poll workers and our voters.
In these conversations with law enforcement, have you had any conversations with the FBI, and what are the different levels of law enforcement telling you about what they're hearing about this election cycle?
Well, obviously, I can't say anything classified, but I'll be as general as I can. With respect to Kentucky, we are not seeing any active threats. We are not seeing any likely threats. I certainly hope that it's a peaceful election day across the country. I do think Kentucky is a little better off than maybe some other places that are more competitive. I don't expect those problems in our state.
Secretary Adams, do you expect all the votes to be counted election night, or are you going to wait a day or two after?
So another thing that I like about our laws in Kentucky is we vote and we count quick, and then we go home and get some rest. On any given election night, we'll have 99% of the vote counted. That's because, number one, most of our voters vote in person instead of mailing ballots in. And number two, it's because we require the ballots to be received by the time the polls close election day. When you see, I'm not going to pick on anybody, but when you see other states take days and days to count, they rely more on mail than we do, and they allow voters to vote on election day by mailing a ballot election day, which means you add a few more days to the election because you have to wait for the ballots to come in and count them. So I think it's fortunate that we do it the way that we do it. I think Kentuckians will go to bed election night knowing who won and lost basically every election in the state.
Any other questions on elections? Well, thank you very much, Secretary Adams, County Clerk Olsklaw, and County Attorney Mike O'Connell. Thank you all so much for joining us. And thanks to the Sheriff's Office for being represented here as well. Really appreciate that very much. Thanks a lot. Thanks. Are you Councilman Hawkins? All right, well, thank you all very much for joining us. Feel free to stay or feel free to depart at this time as well. We're going to move on to other topics. Is that yours? Okay. Our next announcement today concerns public safety. In this case, the conversation that we're having as a community around the existing mask ban ordinance. I'm guided by my conviction that every resident in every corner of our community deserves to feel safe and be safe in their neighborhood and everywhere else that they go across our city. Protecting public health and public safety is our top priority, and that means a commitment to doing things the right way. It means keeping our citizens safe while ensuring accountability and transparency. Our proposed amendments to the existing mask ban ordinance is a great example of how these issues come together. I brought this issue up a few weeks ago in the context of what we're doing, working to prevent violent crime and gang activity across our city. There's nothing more urgent than this work. According to LMPD statistics, so far this year, our city has experienced 130 criminal homicides in Louisville, the vast majority involving firearms. And we've had more than 300 non-fatal shootings. But Kentucky state law prohibits Louisville Metro government from enacting any additional gun violence prevention laws or gun regulations. So that means as a city, we have to find other ways to keep Louisville families safe. In 1983, Louisville enacted a ban on mask wearing in outdoor public places. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, LMPD understandably stopped enforcing that ban. Today, we're seeing violent criminals and gangs exploit this lack of enforcement and adapt to changing circumstances. High-resolution cameras are being used more and more throughout our city by LMPD and metro government, by private businesses, and by private citizens. And new technology makes it easier for law enforcement to track vehicles that are used in crimes. But gang members and other criminals are adapting. They're not just using masks to hide their faces while they commit violent crimes. They seem to be wearing them nearly all of the time. I mean, if there is someone wearing a ski mask, sitting in a car or hanging outside a business and it's 90 degrees outside, I want the police to find out what's going on. If law enforcement sees a group of young men wearing surgical masks and surgical gloves, walking around a school parking lot during a football game or at any other time, I want the police to find out what's going on. That's what happened at PRP High School just a few Sundays ago while a football game was going on and officers were nearby. 2 people were shot by masked individuals. There are a lot of these stories. In fact, as of October 21st of this year, there have been at least 123 incidents of violent crimes committed in Louisville by perpetrators wearing masks. In response, LMPD has begun to enforce the mask ban as a tool to fight violent crime and gang activity. That's the ban that was enacted again in 1983. Yet a lot has changed since then, and we believe that new amendments are needed to reflect the reality of Louisville today. So after receiving some very important feedback over the past few months and having conversations with folks like Councilwoman Tammy Hawkins, who's going to speak in a moment, and others, we are proposing today common sense amendments to this ordinance. And here's what they are. First, we're proposing exemption to protect individuals' personal health and in all cases for indoor mask wearing. COVID-19 and other respiratory illnesses still exist, and people understandably need to protect themselves and others. So to be clear, this ordinance only applies to outdoor mask wearing, and we are proposing an amendment to protect yourself in the cases of health. So if you wear a mask for personal health reasons, I encourage you, continue wearing your surgical mask for personal health reasons. We are also proposing another exemption, an exemption to this ordinance for children under the age of 14 or individuals 60 years and older. Other exemptions include exemptions from this ordinance if you're wearing a mask for religious reasons, or when you wear a mask for a holiday, when you're in a theater performance, and other situations where masks are needed or customarily worn. Like this week for Halloween, we encourage people to wear masks, get dressed, have fun, celebrate Halloween. In my mind, these are common sense provisions that I think everyone can support. But we also have to be smart about enforcement as well, which is why we're also proposing to amend the existing ordinance to make clear that officers cannot stop or detain an individual solely for wearing a mask in an outdoor space. There must be a totality of the circumstances that leads to a reasonable suspicion that a law is being violated. With these updates, the mask ban will better match the needs and expectations of Louisville residents. These amendments will also ensure fair and effective enforcement. Combined with solid, comprehensive police officer training and stringent oversight, we can strengthen public health and public safety while also maintaining public trust. And I know that these provisions are particularly important to our next speaker, Our next speaker is Councilwoman Tammy Hawkins. She is chair of the Public Safety Commission on Metro Council. She is very focused on this and other issues of great importance to our community when it comes to public safety. Councilwoman Hawkins, thank you for joining us today.
Good morning. We understand the concerns of the community, and what also is concerning is the crime rate in this city. This is not set to target any group of people except for those committing crimes, and to lessen their abilities to continue to do that. If you're not attempting to commit a crime or engage in activities that go against the law, then this is not for you. Medical personnel and skilled professionals requiring barriers for physical safety will continue to be able to do so. Worrying for illness prevention and health prevention will continue to take place. Religious, culture, holiday, and recreational events will continue to be celebrated. Let me be clear. We're not talking about wearing the type of mask that would stop any of these situations from occurring. We're not gearing towards predominantly medical masks. Those are the least of our concerns. We're talking about ski mask, ninja mask, pushisti mask, and those that put on medical masks with intentions to commit crimes. These are the masks that are truly the concerns. You fit the description if you put on any of these masks and are trying to commit a crime. These are the masks ideal to use to conceal someone's identity. We cannot forget the true issues here despite their popularities. The issues is not disrupting fashion trends, additionally profiling or dismissing complaints about generational comfort. The issues is the rise of crime that are being felt among all of us because of the ability to easily conceal who they are. You want to know who's killing your kids? You want to know who's breaking in your homes? You want to know who's stealing your cars? Yes, you have a Ring camera up. And how would you know who it is when everyone's wearing a mask? The millions of taxpayers' dollars that have gone towards equipment, cameras, and other technology to help identify suspects is of no use if the full identity of someone's recording is blocked while they're wearing a ski mask. One of our biggest reasons crimes are not being solved is due to suspects not being able to be identified. This is not a LMPD authority towards public housing thing. This is not a white or a black thing. This is not a racial, religion, status, or culture thing. This is about taking our communities back. The proposed amendment gives an opportunity for this, to make sure our young Black men have the equal protection, making sure crime is not able to target our loved ones, target our seniors, target our businesses or our homes. This is the start. We are trying to do something that makes it safe for everyone. If you do not agree with this, this is okay. I would like for people to come up with better solutions. What do you want us to do? We must come up with some type of solution. The mayor, administration, Metro Council, and I would love to hear from the community about some ideas quickly. As the chair of public safety, we welcome it. If you have any questions or concerns, we're going to be having a community meeting. We would love to hear the community's voice. We would love to hear solutions that the community would love for us to come up with. So tomorrow, Wednesday, we're going to be hosting a community meeting at the Newburgh Community Center at 5 p.m. We would love for the community and everyone else to be present. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Hawkins. I could not agree more that this is about using every available tool that we can think of, that we have in our toolbox to fight violent crime, to reduce illegal and violent activity that's happening for the protection of our community. Thank you for your support and look forward to working with you on this and other solutions, as you said, towards our violent crime challenges. And I also encourage folks, we'll have folks from our administration at this community meeting tomorrow night that Councilwoman Hawkins is hosting. I thank her as chair of the Public Safety Committee for convening this community meeting, and we look forward to hearing other solutions from the community as well. We have a couple of other final announcements before we take questions regarding public safety as well. One is an update from last week. At last Tuesday's briefing, we announced our critical infrastructure task force. Part of that focus was to prevent the theft of copper wire from key parts of our public infrastructure, including streetlights. These thefts impact public safety and cause damage that's expensive and time-consuming for our community. Well, as has been reported, LMPD got a tip from a citizen who saw a man stealing copper from a highway light pole. And the day after that announcement, LMPD made an arrest. I want to thank our citizen who alerted us to the crime, to the officers who made the arrest. That's great news. It shows the type of proactive work that can be done when the community and LMPD and others from the private sector work closely together. So again, if you have any information that can lead to an arrest of an individual who is stealing copper wire or any other violent crime, we want to hear from you. Or you can report it anonymously. Please call 574-LMPD to report crimes from happening. And our final announcement for the day is a great one. I'm excited to announce new leadership for an agency whose work is near and dear to the hearts of animal lovers all across our city, Louisville Metro Animal Services. And before I introduce him, I just want to say a special thanks to Adam Hamilton. Adam has been serving as interim director. Thank you, Adam, for your years of public service and your continued service as we move forward with LMAS. You have done a wonderful job, and you and your team do such important work. Our entire LMAS team is working every day of the year to care for animals, to support our community. They work hard to provide care and find forever homes for animals who need them. Last year, LMAS found homes for more than 2,600 animals and maintained a live release rate above 90% for both dogs and cats. Louisville Metro Animal Services has great momentum, and I know that that will only grow under our new director, who I'm excited to publicly introduce today. Our administration conducted a national search and received applications from all over the country. We established an interview committee to help us make the right choice, and we have. I'm excited to announce that we've hired Andy McClinton to be the new leader of Louisville Metro Animal Services. Andy is a career public servant and a proud Louisvillian who has dedicated his life to serving our community. He knows Metro government well from the years he spent earlier in his career with the Louisville Metro Police Department. He served in leadership roles there, including as assistant chief. He's also served on numerous boards and other community associations. So I am so proud to welcome Andy McClinton as the new director of Louisville Metro Animal Services.
Good morning. First, I'd like to thank Mayor Greenberg, Deputy Mayor James, and the interview panel for this exciting opportunity. I am honored to have the trust of Mayor Greenberg to lead Louisville Metro Animal Services during these challenging times. I feel that my 22 years of experience serving our community in various leadership roles has helped me prepare for this position. I have successfully navigated many challenging situations throughout my career, and I look forward to leading the dedicated and hardworking staff at Louisville Metro Animal Services. I believe every animal deserves a chance for a loving home, and I am dedicated to fostering a culture of compassion and collaboration. Together, we will work to increase our spaying and neutering, increase our microchipping, increase our adoptions, and we're going to promote responsible pet ownership through education and through the enforcement of all of our laws and all of our ordinances. I look forward to engaging with Mayor Greenberg's team, Metro Council, my staff, the Friends of Metro Animal Services, and all of our community partners, because it's your passion and dedication that will help drive our success. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Andy. Really appreciate that very much. And we're excited to continue to move forward. And I'm really appreciative for everyone, as you mentioned, that it was part of the search process and the unanimous recommendation of the search committee that recommended we engage you. And thanks again to Friends of Metro Animal Services as well for participating on that committee as well. And with that, we are happy to take any questions from members of the media. And Councilman Hawkins, if you want to join for. And with that, we're happy to take any questions from members of the media.
Give any update on the street racing situation that occurred on Bardstown Road last week?
The one by the county line south in the south part of the city. I do not have a current update on that right now. We'll make a note and get you one. I have continued to have conversations with members of the Kentucky General Assembly on that issue in general. There seems to be significant interest from members of the Kentucky General Assembly who want to provide some additional state laws and resources to help us in Louisville stop street racing.
That was going to be my next question is, as the city has cracked down on this over the course of the last year or two, it's still occurring. What are you guys doing to strengthen some of those policies or create new ones?
Yeah, so when we are continuously working on gathering information to try to anticipate when we might have information about an event occurring that will involve street racing. And I think we've done so when we have that information, we amp up in terms of our task force that focuses on that area to be ready for the evening when we expect it to occur. Other times, as I believe was the case that you mentioned on Bardstown Road, it happens with no warning. And so we need to be prepared. We continue to train our officers in how to respond. We have certain officers that are trained specifically on how to deal with these types of incidents, but all officers are receiving some training on how to respond. And again, we're working with the state to find new additions to our state law that we hope will deter this type of activity.
Can you tell me the latest on the team in DC that's meeting with DOJ?
So we have a negotiating team that includes the Assistant Deputy General Counsel from my office, representatives of LMPD that has been working with the DOJ on a regular basis over the course of this year as the front lines of the negotiations. Myself, my chief of staff and general counsel, Chief Humphrey. We are also very engaged in those negotiations as well, but these individuals are involved on the front lines every day. They're in Washington, D.C., meeting with their counterparts at the United States Department of Justice on working to conclude the negotiations regarding the consent decree so we can get that document filed with the court as soon as possible.
So still have that filed sometime this year.
We are ready. We want to get this done as soon as possible. I've spoken myself personally with Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark 3 times in the past 2 weeks to try to help move this process towards a speedy conclusion. We want to get it done quickly. We also want to get it done right, as does the United States Department of Justice.
Good.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you all very much. Have a great week. Thank you, Councilwoman Hawkins, for joining us.
I'd be curious if you could take a look around this building and learn about some of the distributors, some of the stories you can get from this center and seeing that.